Hello, this is Brian Scuttle here with a quick take for Rob Marshall's The Little Mermaid. I think at this point we kind of need to take off the table the idea that a lot of these live action remakes are going to be as good or better than the original film. I mean, I think the one exception is David Lowery's Pete's Dragon, which, I mean, naturally just expanded beautifully a story that was kind of silly and told a very different story. Um, that being said, I think what Rob Marshall does in The Little Mermaid is actually quite good. Visually, it's not quite as garish and unimaginative as I think some of the trailers made out to be. I mean, let's face it, not every movie with underwater sequences are going to be as good as Avatar: The Way of Water. It's because James Cameron has a fascination with being underwater that really makes that idea for him fascinating. The main thing to point out here is Halle Bailey is tremendous as Ariel. She is the highlight of the entire movie. Uh, she she is the star, and she gives a star-making performance. It's probably one of the best performances of this year. In fact, I think Jonah Howard King as Eric is very good. I love the way that this story really hones into the idea of these two both being connected with each other's worlds and wanting to explore each other's worlds. I love that that element is enhanced in this movie. It doesn't mean it need to be 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it makes that 2 hours and 15 minutes a bit more palatable. Melissa McCarthy is terrific as Ursula, as you would expect. It's probably her strongest performance in a good long while. As King Triton, Javier Bardem was good. David Diggs is very funny as Sebastian. Jacob Tremblay and as Flounder and Aquafina as Scuttle are good. I mean, it's weird because it took me a minute to remember that was Aquafina as Scuttle, but I think she did an engaging job with it. I thought the music was really well done. I'm not a huge fan of the Scuttlebutt song, but it's entertaining. But you can kind of tell that Lin-Manuel Miranda's style of songwriting just doesn't really mix with the Menken Ashman songwriting that goes through every other song. I think that's one of the biggest issues with the film from a musical standpoint. But overall, I thought this was a quite good film. I thought it did a good job telling this story and making it an engaging one, even if it doesn't have the pop. Yeah, I think one of the things, especially the more animal creatures that these stories have, they're central, they're speaking. I think one of the things we're going to see is it's going to be harder and harder for us to really get into the idea that this is realistic, a realistic live action version, because it's going to be so animated. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that happened with the Lion King remake by Favreau. With the Jungle Book, at least the Jungle Book, you could see the level of fantasy to it. So, when you're trying to tell a relatively serious story, it's hard to really capture the fantasy when you've got so many when you have so many realistic animals that are trying to sing and dance. Um, some of the sequences that they try, some of the beats they try hit from the animated version in this movie through live action, it doesn't work. The climax of Part of Your World really doesn't work. You really need the animation, the power of the animation, the power of the colors in there to make it work. It just really looks silly. But I think Kiss the Girl worked fairly well, actually, in that case. Under the Sea was not quite that bad. But on the whole, overall, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it a lot more than I think I expected. And I think, it's one of those things where Rob Marshall is he's a complicated director to talk about, I think, because his best film is Chicago, which you would think is very much a director's vision, but I feel like that's so many people associate that with Bill Condon's vision of what that script could be in a cinematic standpoint. He was basically just executing it. And you look at Nine, you look at you look at what's the other one he did? Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. You can tell there's he's a very erratic filmmaker. But I mean, I was a fan of Memoirs of a Geisha. I thought that was a quite good movie. But he does well here, and I'm pretty impressed by it. It gives me motivation to see some of these live action movies that miss, like Peter Pan and Wendy, that David Lowery did, that's on Disney Plus. I haven't seen that yet. And I still haven't watched Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. I need to do that. But overall, The Little Mermaid is a successful movie, I think, overall. And that's going to be it for this quick take on 2023's The Little Mermaid. Check out for more reviews. Next week, I've got Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I've got a few more coming up. It's going to be a busy late June, early July, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you over www.sonic-cinema.com.